Guys, and welcome back to the Wellness Entrepreneur podcast. And today I have a very exciting episode for you. Today I'm interviewing Lou Ord, who is a wild luxe florist, which just in her description blows my mind. I think it sounds so enticing. And she runs a company called Lou Labelle. So today she's going to tell us all about that and a little bit about her story. So I'll hand over to Lou and I'll just get her to tell you a bit about herself and about her business. So over to you, my love.
Thank you. Hey, I'm Lou, and yeah, I'm a wild and luxe florist. I live between Bristol and Cornwall at the moment, but will be mostly in Bristol from the end of this year. And yeah, I love flowers and I love flowering weddings. And I'm also venturing into more mentoring and wellness and healing as well. So I started my flower journey about 12 years ago. I was 18 and I just really needed a job. And I was over like A-levels and stuff. Didn't go too well with college. I had loads of anxiety and it didn't really work out. So my friend was working at the local veg shop and she actually got pregnant and I took her job. I was like, I need a job. I was working at the local like fruit and veg shop and I actually loved it. I thought it was so fun talking to all the customers and stuff. And the boss there started doing more flowers and she was really passionate about floristry, so I started selling flowers. So I got to start playing with them and just like being around lots of different types of exciting flowers, and ended up going to retrain as a florist because I thought, I just really like this. It's really fun. I've got a bit of a flair for it. I've always been quite creative, but just no good at like painting or like drawing or anything, but always had like lots of fun with like photography and stuff. So I knew that there was something there that I wanted to tap into, but just hadn't quite found it yet, and then just kind of fell into love with flowers.
Amazing.
So I went to college and then I went and did an apprenticeship at an eco florist, which was like pretty edgy for the time because it was about 10 years ago, and they were so cool and we got so many interesting projects because anyone with kind of like any kind of quirky ideas would come to us because they knew that that's where they could come and get their wild ideas made into flower form. So I really like loved that and have really run with that. And I just learned so much on the job. It was just like, we did weddings, we did a lot of shop work, so lots of like different bouquets and like contracts with hotels and stuff like that, and lots of plants, which was really cool. They, after a couple of years, decided to sell the shop, and I tried to work for the next people, but it just wasn't the same vibe. So I actually went on holiday, and on the way back from the airport I was thinking, I just really don't want to go back to this job. I just don't want to, like. And as I was sat in the airport, I saw a job advertised in Shanghai, in China, for a florist. So I was like, screw this, I'm going to go to China. I'm going to do it. Because I was like, I'm pretty wild anyway. Like I'm like quite love a challenge. So yeah. I just did it. I went out there and it was meant to be for a year. But honestly, when I got there, I was like, what have I done? This is so crazy.
Wow.
And it was a very big culture shock. Even though I traveled a lot, I traveled on my own, when I was in like early 20s, and the job was just really weird. And the girl that I went with, who I knew from college, so lovely, she left after 4 days, and I honestly wanted to go with her. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I should just go with her. But I was like, my mum and my stepdad had dropped me at the airport, and they were going on holiday to Nepal for like 3 weeks. And I was like, I can't come home before them. That's so crazy. Like, I'm meant to be here for a year. So I was like, right, what can I do to make myself like, see if I can do this? and I got a leather jacket made for me.
Nice.
I was like, right, I'll get a tailored thing made I have to wait a few weeks for. So I did that. I was like, right, I'll stay for that.
Accountability.
Yeah, exactly. And then I realized that it really wasn't for me. I was like, right, okay, you've really I gave it a month, and I was like, right, I didn't feel right in it, and it just, the company was just not good. All of the staff that were working there that were like native to Shanghai were leaving. Like, it was a sinking ship. So I just thought, right, I tried it, and like, wow, it was a wild ride, but I'm gonna go home now. So then I was like, right, I had a bit of a bad experience with the whole working for other people thing, like twice in a row. Never been great with authority anyway. School was always tricky. I was very clever, still like very intelligent, but just naughty, as I would be told. But like kind of cheeky and charismatic, so would get away with it a bit, but still not great.
Rebelling against the system.
Exactly.
I think all entrepreneurs are rebels at heart. I'm convinced of this.
Exactly. Yeah, why we don't like to answer to other people. Well, I don't. So I was like, what can I do? I love floristry. I know that other people go freelance and like work for themselves and start their own businesses. So I just did it. I just got a Facebook page, and I set up an Instagram, and I was like, right, I'm doing this. And then opportunities just flooded in. Like, after a while, I got invited to do a wedding fair, so I said yes, and I just said yes to things that felt really good, and that was 12 years ago. Or 10 years ago.
That is absolutely amazing. And something that really jumps out at me as you were speaking, and those of you that will be watching this on YouTube, you'll be able to see it in Lou. She's very high vibe. She's got a really nice sort of dynamic energy about you. And what I noticed right way back from the beginning of your story is this idea of like navigating from a place of joy, like as in, you were like, oh, that seems good. Like I'm interested, I'm excited by that. And you've obviously allowed yourself to follow those sort of impulses. And I think a lot of people don't navigate from a place of joy, and rather they feel the joy and they feel the excitement, but sometimes it's that suffering piece that is a little bit more familiar. So it's sort of like, I'm not allowed to follow my joy. You know, things need to feel hard. And obviously you haven't, you know, in that story, it's not just been plain sailing, but by recursing from a place of what felt good, you landed in a position that you were able to thrive in.
Exactly. I definitely do thrive from a place of joy. I don't like to suffer. It doesn't actually feel that safe for me to suffer either. I'm like, oh, this is just, it doesn't,
And do you think that's always been in you? Do you think you just always had that? Or have you sort of purposely trained your mind to think, no, you know, like it doesn't have to be a slog. It doesn't have to be a struggle. Like that almost like that feeling, exactly as you say, that feeling is just an indicator to move away from that, as opposed to having to sit with it or having to put up with it.
Oh, I think I've trained myself to do that because it's probably not natural to many people.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. It's tricky, isn't it? Like, I think it's logically been obvious to me to follow joy rather than suffering.
Yeah.
Like, but I've had lots of therapy in my life because I love to be curious about the inner workings of your mind and like other people's like human behaviors. So I think that's really helped me. Like, I don't know, I am a really sunny person anyway, but I've definitely have to like check in with myself, like, why am I doing this? Like, is this from a place of fear and like, am I scared to do something, or am I just excited and I should just go for it, which is normally my natural response. Actually, it is my natural response to be like, yeah, I love this, I'm going to do that, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because it's a reflection of, I always think it's a reflection of your alignment. Like, so when things flow and they feel good, it's because you're sort of plugged in, you're connected to something. And when things don't, when things feel a bit stressful or whatever, you've maybe lost sight of that, or I've written down here this like overriding the autopilot, because it's quite easy, isn't it, to just get up and out of bed in the morning, sort of run through that same schedule, sort of repeat, rinse and repeat, and before you know it, it's just, you're just doing it automatically. So you have to sort of look for those cues of when things start to feel a bit, even just a bit boring, or just a bit sort of beige, stagnant. Yeah, exactly. A bit beige.
Yeah, definitely not. Like, yeah, definitely don't want to live a beige life. So yeah, it's important to follow those exciting feelings, because they're also coupled with scary feelings.
Of course, right?
It's a really good indicator of where you should be going, what's lighting you up.
I totally agree. Absolutely agree. And what I find interesting as well in your story is that you sort of, sounds like you sort of split off when you went to look at the sort of wild eco sort of college. It's like you found your people, right? You were able to quite quickly find a way where you could use your discipline and express yourself the way you wanted to.
Exactly that. So the first year I've trained for like 3 years at this college, and their grounds were amazing, and I really loved that. But really, they didn't know what to do with me, because I didn't fit into their like, oh, we make this arrangement like this with these ingredients, like 3 roses, 2 of this, 2 of this. And I was like, no, I don't do that. And I just would go off into the grounds and forage all my own bits and come back with these like wacky creations. I'm sure they were just like, how are we going to pass this girl? Like, what is she even making? Like, and I just loved it so much, but just would never, couldn't fit in that box of like, that just wasn't my vibe at all. So I just found my people. So
and I think that really comes across in your brand. Like, if you go and check Lou out, and she'll tell you where to find her later, but if you look at your sort of your brand, it gives you that feeling. It gives you that feeling that you're not going to get the sort of like the beige experience. You're not going to get that sort of formal, like very sort of stagnant, like repetitive. So it's going to be very expressive and personal.
Definitely. That's my like passion, is to like make it personal. So like actually make couples. So if I'm doing a wedding, for instance, like represent their personalities through flowers, not prescribe them packages. Like it's a unique kind of like experience.
I love it.
So it's really important that it's not beige or boring. So.
Yeah, I think this is going to be our quote from today's episode. Don't be so beige. So you were talking about obviously how that started, and then now sort of stepping into the mentoring space, and I've spoke to you a bit before about this. So where do you feel that floristry meets wellness? Like, where do those two fuse?
For me, it's like this love of botanicals. Like in my work, I use a lot of scented flowers. So like as much local and foraged. So I forage a lot, and I love using herbs and scented like roses. Like that's what I go to first. Like obviously we want to make like something that looks beautiful, but it needs to have all the elements in. So it has to have like lush texture. So and scent is really important. So I think my love of like herbs and that kind of stuff, just like the aromatherapy side of it, and has really like, that's where the crossover is for me. And just working in nature, like you'll find me barefoot most of the time. Like so it's that like working with nature, I think, is how humans like we are in the right cycles, like when we're in the cycle with nature. So that's where it comes in for me.
I was just going to say to you, it's like you must be constantly tuning into nature's rhythm. So it must be hard for you to, I suppose, if you get too heady into the business side of things, at the end of the day, your art is working with the earth, right? Working with Mother Earth. So you're going to keep coming back to that sort of grounding aspect of, which must help you as much as it obviously helps and sustains your business.
So much, because I have to go outside. I have to go and cut things and like be, even if it's raining, like, and it's so good. Like, I'm not someone that loves being at their laptop all the time. Like, that's a huge part of being in business, like sometimes, but I have to work with flowers. I was like, I was like, even considering like once being a photographer, and I was like, no, I can't. Like, that's like, your part of your job will be at your laptop. Like, my actual job is nothing to do with like technology or anything. It's like hands in the dirt, like plants. So yeah, I love it. It's such a passion.
I love that. I was in last week's podcast, we were talking about how to define your niche, and I was talking about a client of mine was telling me about this woman that she met who was a counselor, and she would only counsel people whilst taking them for walks. So that was like her thing, that was her niche.
Yeah, I do that actually.
Yeah. And I just think it's so beautiful to realize that when you step into that entrepreneurial space, I think a lot of people get very bogged down by all of the sort of strategy and how I'm going to need to sit and do all these Facebook lives and get on my, do all my content creation. But we have to remember that sort of seed why as to why we're doing it. And it's that art, it's that thing that you're so passionate about that has to remain at the forefront. So for you, like foraging in nature, as much as the other stuff's got to be there, it's remembering how important that is to what you do, that I imagine keeps you getting out of bed every morning.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely that. Yeah, it really does.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Okay, so I would love you to tell us a little bit more about when you decided to go it solo. So a lot of my audience are starting out in business, or they're transitioning from one way of working to another. And generally it's about stepping more powerfully into their truth, or starting to express new sides of themselves. So tell me a little bit about how you sort of push through those fears that naturally come up when you decide to go it solo.
Well, I don't really remember feeling too scared about it, because I just felt the pull and then a push from behind. So like everything was driving me to do it. Mm-hmm. And I didn't put any pressure on what the outcome would be. So I was like, this is what I like to do. I'm just gonna just slowly start to put things out there and say yes to what feels right. But now I'm kind of pivoting my business. I can kind of get into that more like, oh, I need this, well, I really want this to work, and I've got these like thoughts of like, how would I do it? Like, what would other people like? And I've had to like really talk myself round from that. I'm like, no, what do I want to do? What lights me up? And that's what's gonna, obviously it's nerve-wracking, but trying to catch myself talk and just remembering why I'm doing it, what like taking that inspiration, like from like, what am I downloading from the universe? Like, what am I driven to do? And kind of like holding on to that, even in the face of like fear of failure, probably for me most. I'm like, oh, if it doesn't work, what am I going to do? Like, have I just made a bit of a tit of myself? Like,
right. You hate the idea of screwing up or looking like you haven't achieved it in front of other people.
Or like, I'm too big for my boots is another one that comes up, and I'm like, calm down, Louise, like it's fine. Like, I just have to go for it, and you just have to leap. Like, at some point, like, what's the famous quote? Like, it's too painful to stay small than not blossom. What's that? I can't remember the exact quote, but it's like, you know which one I mean. So I'm kind of in that space at the moment, and you just have to leap. Like, you have like
leap, and the universe will follow.
Really matters. Exactly. Like, tune into what really matters to you, and then you can't go wrong, really.
And you said to me earlier, what do I really desire? What sets my soul on fire? And you said that quite a few times. And I thought to myself, your internal navigation is from that point. And I think that's really powerful, because so often it's the other way around, right? So it's like, I have an idea. I'm going to set the wheels in motion. I'm going to go through, follow like a preset formula that's either someone else has given to me, or that I sort of am thinking is what everyone else does. And then sometimes we get quite far down the line and we go, oh, but I don't know if that was actually what I wanted. So maybe my lifestyle, or maybe I'm, I can't get the lifestyle I want with this particular model. So I love this idea that you obviously navigate from a place of, what do I desire? So let's start there. And again, has that been something that you sort of like brought into your life, or do you think you've just naturally always asked yourself that question?
I think it's probably a bit of both, but I've definitely done a lot of work around that. A lot. Like, that's my daily practice in the morning. It's like,
Is it?
I've really built up that, like, if, like, I probably journal on, like, the question, like, if I was fully supported by the universe and I knew it was all just done, what would I actually do today? Like, what steps would I take from that place? And that's kind of like, that's something that's really important. I think that's the key to it all, really.
I love
Just
that.
like, what actually is it that I love? Yeah. So I kind of think it's kind of both. Like, I am naturally kind of towards that kind of state of mind, but I've done a lot of work to really like nail it in, like.
Yeah, and also I suppose the more work you do around any of these sort of things, the more natural it becomes, right? So what once feels like a constant sort of, oh, got to keep sort of recoursing here, becomes naturally over time an automatic response. So if something doesn't feel right, then it becomes automatic to say, what do I really desire here? So I love to give my listeners like a little takeaway, and I just think that would be beautiful. So like from Lou, from her heart, you guys grab a pen and paper and write at the top of that page, you know, if you knew you were fully supported by the universe, what would you do? What steps would you take next? So I'm hearing a lot from you, this idea of being fully plugged in, like to something higher, to the universe, whatever it is that you want to call it. How much does that make up your life and your business? How much is the idea of being connected, being in alignment, sort of having that higher purpose fuel what you do and how you live?
I mean, definitely over the last year or two, it's huge. Like, I've really like focused on that because I feel that's where I download my information, my inspiration from, and like, it's working out really well. Like, I feel really like I just feel an alignment, and I'm really like working on my intuition, like trying to strengthen it, and it's a huge part. I've really developed a great morning routine, and like I check in a lot with myself, like in that kind of like like checking in on the alignment. I think it's really important.
So would you share with our audience some of your like techniques, your morning rituals, things that they could do as tools to help them connect and align?
So they're probably quite classic things to do. If you're into like coaching and stuff, you've probably like heard of a lot of them. But like I started about 2 or 3 years ago with meditating every morning, just for 10 minutes. Like, I started just using an app where I would just use it almost as a snooze. Like, instead of an extra snooze, I would just stick my headphones in and put and like meditate on that. But now I kind of get out of bed and actually like sit up rather than but that's just how I like to do it. Like, you can do whatever you want. Like, it's just being present. So that's like my first thing that I do. And then I make a cup of tea and say some affirmations outside. Even if it's a bit rainy, I just like open because we've got like a stable door. So I open the top and just look out and like in my mind, or sometimes I say them out loud if it's like really quiet outside and no one's like watching me.
I love that. And how are the affirmations formed? Are they the same affirmations every morning, or are they very sort of intuitively guided? How do you find your daily affirmation?
That's a really good question, actually. I have some that are quite like classic ones for me, like a lot from my coaches and therapists and stuff. Like my favorite one at the moment, I've got it in my screensaver on my phone actually, is, as I say yes to my soul, the universe says yes to me. So I really love that. It's so powerful, isn't it?
Yes.
And but I do kind of change them up. So if I'm really feeling something like, oh, I really want to focus on like financial abundance, or I want to focus on finding my like tribe, or like there's something like that I'm feeling at the moment, like I think right now I want to strengthen my intuition even more. That's kind of what I've been feeling. So I'll do something on that, or just like, yeah, that's like those kind of things. I change them up quite a lot. So, but there's some that stick, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
and why, I mean, I get it, but I'd love you to explain, why do you feel it's more powerful to do it with a connection to the outside? Why don't you just
that's where my connection is, I think, is outside. Like, I'm sure you could do it inside if that's where you feel like your sanctuary is, but I'm an outdoorsy kind of gal, so
yeah,
that's where I like to do it.
but I like the intention behind it. You know, I think that sometimes when we talk about self-care and talk about rituals, I get really fired up around the whole topic with self-care, because I think like everything, once upon a time it was like no one was talking about it, it barely existed, and everyone, you know, was pushing for it to be more at the forefront, and then it becomes more of the forefront, and then it sort of becomes a bandwagon, and then everyone's telling you it looks like this, you have to do it like this,
or you have to buy this, and it's like,
sure, right? And you have to take a picture and post it on Instagram once you're practicing your self-care, so you've got all your crystals around you, and you're like, I think the problem is that it's sort of like another thing that people are being set up to fail at, because it's like they might think, I haven't got the right journal, or I'm not doing it right, or she said to do it like this, and I think what's beautiful about what you're saying is you're tuning into what fuels you up, so what looks right for you and how you find your affirmations, and even that small intention of let's connect to the outside whilst doing it makes that so uniquely yours, as opposed to just you know, something that you've picked up
stating things, and without that energetic, like the emotional energy behind it or the intention. I totally agree,
because I believe with energy mastery, intention's everything. So whatever you do is powerless without the intention behind it, right? So it's like, because that directions your energy. Like if you're sort of like, I'm just doing this because someone's told me to, the energy just feels sort of scattered, whereas if you're being really purposeful and intentional about your practice, anything would work, right? Having a cup of tea and just closing your eyes for 5 minutes and you know, affirming something could be as powerful as a half an hour meditation if you were fully intentional about it.
Exactly. I totally agree.
So how would it round up? So you've woken up, you've got out of bed, you've done a little meditation, come downstairs, made a cup of tea, stepped outside or connected outside somehow with your affirmations, and is that it, or is there anything else?
No, there's so much more, but I have to say this has been like in the works, like it's built up over like years. I didn't just start, like, this is quite a mega like morning ritual.
Is it?
It's quite long, like, but I would never think that I would have had a long morning ritual like this, like,
so it evolved.
But now I'm a morning person anyway, so like it suits me. So I then will come in and I'll pull an oracle card, and just that'll be like, I'll ask a question like, oh, how can I be of service today? What lessons do I need to learn today? Or like, just send me some guidance, like, depending on how I feel. And that's quite quick usually. And then from that kind of space, like anything that's come through in my meditation or just while I've been like in that nice morning space, I'll journal on that. And it's often like, it's more about tuning in than what I'm actually writing. So I'll ask like a question, like I said, what sets me on fire? What if I was held and safe today? Like if everything was done, what action would I take? So I kind of journal on those kind of things, and it just really sets you up for the day. And then if I'm feeling really good, I'll do like some yoga or go swimming. That's my like 2 fave things to do.
Amazing.
And that kind of is like that's like my best morning. So
I love that.
It's cool, like, isn't it?
Morning ritual guru. I'm taking that away. But I think you're right. I think how you set up your day, I often talk as well about, I think your sort of your day starts the night before. So I have some practices like the night before to sort of like preempt it. But I think it's everything, because you've taken that moment, right? And then you can get on with your day. And if your day goes busy, hectic, crazy, whatever happens, you still know that you've had that little bit of time just for you.
It's good. It's really good.
So that may be your piece of advice, but for someone who's listening to this today and is just starting out or is doing what you're doing and deciding to make a brave move into changing slightly the direction of their business, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give them?
Tune in to what lights you up and only take action from that space.
Okay.
That's what I think, that's the key.
I agree.
Like for me anyway.
What have you seen in yourself or in others that happens as a result of taking action from a place of disconnection or of because you feel you should, or when you're out of your power slightly?
Yeah. It just feels, I won't enjoy myself if I'm doing that. It won't be fun. It'll be like a guilty feeling almost, like I should, like it'll feel like that the whole time. I'll resent it.
Yes.
Like if I've taken something on that I'm like, so I haven't done a wedding for years and years and years and years that I haven't like been in love with. So I've said no, or just sent them into somebody that I think would be more suited to their. So for instance, like I'm not someone that uses like diamante pins in roses or like a certain look. Like I can't make
so
like
glad I moved those roses from behind. No, I'm joking. Can you imagine?
I'm not judging. It's just not something that I can that I want to work with. Like it doesn't. I don't feel creative with those materials. Like if somebody would like a round, like solid bouquet that like you could literally club someone with, like I can't do that. Like I can't do neat. Like it doesn't come out of me. Like it's not my.
Yeah. Not your zone of genius.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not there. So if I were to take on, and I remember doing, it was like a friend of a friend's wedding, and I just was like, it was so kind of them because I was still getting going, and like I took the job and I just resented it the whole time. And honestly, I think you can tell in people's work when they're not in love with it. Like I didn't do a bad job. Like they got exactly what they wanted, but the whole process was just soul destroying for me.
Yeah.
And I think I am quite sensitive to it, but oh no, I can remember it now. I was just like, oh, and it's like long hours with like wedding floristry. You're up early, you go to bed late, like grab a snack while you can, kind of thing. So you have to really love what you're doing and be inspired. So
and I think this is a big part of like, you know, I think as entrepreneurs, we're naturally creative and we're naturally sort of visionary. And I think it's that thing as you can't just churn things out. You can't be just told like, just, you know, just, well, I have the capability to do it, but it's so hard because like you're sort of trying to swim upstream, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it wasn't good. Yeah, and I don't ever want to repeat it. So I've made a conscious effort not to. And I don't have to be like rude about it. I just politely say, I actually think this person is much more suited to you, to your aesthetic or what you're trying to get. So,
and I think there's a lot of integrity in that. And I really encourage my clients to do that. It's like, if it's not for you, if you're not a good match, I think it's so important to have those sort of conversations with people and not just see the sort of money signs and think, oh yeah, I'm going to go and grab it. Because if you're not a good match for someone, like you're not going to be able to serve them in the best way possible. And as you say, you know, there will be people out there that are a better match and can do it in a better way, you know, that will serve both sides. So what I'm hearing from you, which I'd love to talk about a little bit, because some of my clients have really been struggling with this recently. And I don't know about you, but I have waves of topics that come up again and again and again. And it's almost like in seasons or in months, you know, there'll be a particular theme. And at the moment for me and my clients is boundaries. So you said you've got some nice sort of boundaries, and this idea that when you have nice, strong boundaries, if it's not a hell yes, it's a no, right? So it doesn't light you up, it doesn't feel glorious, then you think probably not for me. How have you found that? Have you found feeling into your boundaries, the ability to say no, you know, because we hate letting people down, that whole narrative of like, oh my God, is it rejection? You know, so sometimes we just become yes people because we're so scared of hurting other people's feelings. How's that journey been for you with boundaries?
That's been the biggest journey for me.
Has it?
I'm a natural Libra. I'm like a mega Libra, like a people pleaser. Like, I want everyone to be harmoniously happy and like no bad vibes. I'm just like, oh, let's all just get along and like let's not rock the boat. Like, that's, and my mum is also a mega Libra as well.
Okay.
So the ancestral lines on that one are just like so, but it is, I started going to see my therapist, who I do walk on the beach with now. Actually, that's how we do our therapy. We walk on a really long beach, and it's really like, it's so powerful, it's so good. But as soon as she was like kind of even bringing up boundaries and stuff, I was like, I can't say that to them. Oh my gosh, like that would just be, I would be such a, that would be so rude of me and so selfish or whatever. And I just had a really strong reaction to it, and just felt really powerless to actually say no, or like actually say even what I liked, like or what I would prefer to do, even like such a people pleaser. But as soon as I made one little change of my like point of view, like, and just looked at boundaries slightly differently, and did actually put in one place like one boundary, I just saw the instant reaction of everyone around me was so positive. Like, nothing happened. No, there was no like, I thought the whole world would like explode, basically. And like, that's quite self-centered actually, now I look back. But at the time it was like, I just couldn't. I was like, oh no, I just can't even like, but now I'm like, love a boundary, because I like it when people have boundaries with me, because I know exactly where I am with them, and they're actually like really important. Oh god, yeah, boundaries are the best. So just, it's a slow practice. Like, it didn't happen overnight. Like, just that first one, I was like, wow, their reaction was so cool, and I just feel so great now, and like everyone's happy and it's all fine. I just
is that whole
actually,
preempting, isn't it? The preempting of, oh god, but what if I say this and then they'll say this, and we get so, I often have this idea that, you know, don't make a decision for someone else. Do you know what I mean? We do that a lot, don't we? We're sort of like, well, when I say this, they're going to say this. And I think,
and you have no idea.
Yeah, how do we know?
Yeah, you don't know how anyone's going to react, and it's like so powerful and so important to have strong boundaries around important issues, and know what to let go, and not have like,
use your battle.
it's great.
But I noticed that you said you love Brené Brown, and she talks a lot about boundaries, doesn't she? And some of the vulnerable and honest conversations I've heard her have on podcasts and stuff around some of the things she's sort of laid boundaries with, which just listening to her talk about having to do it made me feel almost nauseous. I'm like, oh my god,
I was like, Brené, really?
Exactly. But I'm like, you know what, like that, I think you know, one of the key aspects of success in business is boundaries, because this idea that every time you say yes, you're saying no to something else. So you've got to make a choice. If you say yes to all the clients and all the time, you're saying no to some of those ones that, you know, you could have incredible relationships with, and transformation in their lives.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big scary one, but it's great. Yeah,
I think it is. And I think a lot of my clients have said to me, and people I've spoke to, it's sometimes professional boundaries are talked about. So when we train in whatever we train in, or you have sort of corporate jobs or whatever jobs we've had in the past, that professional boundary thing is sort of spoken of, but not necessarily the personal boundary stuff.
Yeah.
So sort of, is it okay to get my needs met? You know, what are my needs? Sort of really tuning into that. And I think you have to ask yourself that question in your business. What are the needs of your business in order to get where you want to go? What is it that you need to be setting parameters wise in your business?
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So what one thing do you want to change in the world? What sort of change do you want to be a contributor to in our beautiful world?
That's a big question.
It is.
And it's a great question. I think I want to be part of, like, so there's a big shift in consciousness about, especially in women, I mean it's happening in men too, but of like doing more of this inner work, or the like actually like what we've been talking about, like the tuning in, and actually like people allowing their gifts to like light up their corner of the world, which is in turn like raising up other females and people, just anyone that they come in contact with, and then who they come in contact with, and it's like shifting the whole planet. So I think what a time to be alive, and be like put my gifts into that. I'm just, that would be like the best legacy to like, yeah, to be just put my part of that.
I love it. And I think it's this idea that this sort of step, by you stepping up, by you taking these bigger leaps in your business, by you tuning in and following all of this. And again, this is, I guess, around the self-care piece. Sometimes we've been brought up or programmed to believe that all that is very selfish, you know, but actually in order for us to contribute to the whole, to sort of change that collective consciousness, we have to be willing to start with us.
I totally agree. Yeah, and I love like being sort of like seeing everyone rising, and it inspires me, and I just want to, if I could inspire one person to like take that little leap, then that's amazing. And that actually changes more than that one person's life. So
it's the ripple effect, isn't it? I love it. And I think you're right in that, what a time to be alive, because I think it's really easy at the moment. There's obviously a lot of things that are going on in the world that aren't good, and sometimes we can get sucked into that, and really it can be a heavy thing to carry. But we also have to look at what all of that brings about, which is the opportunity for change. It's like when things reach a peak, like there has to be a resurgence of something. And I've never had so many conversations around sort of that energy mastery piece in business ever. It just seems to now be integrated. People understand that not just business, but in order for their life to be where they want it to be, there has to be a point of connection between who they are, what they want, and their sense of self.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And as a collective, that makes the consciousness and the awareness of our planet higher, and the vibration higher, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
So with that in mind, who inspires you? Who do you like absorbing content of?
So we talked about Brené Brown recently. I love her. She's amazing.
Yeah, she's
like
beautiful.
All of her work is just so, like her TED talk was so groundbreaking. Like no one was talking about shame or vulnerability really in the way that we are now.
Yeah.
I think she's incredible. I love Oprah as well, which I know is like kind of cheesy and a bit like 90s, but she's amazing. Like,
I love how you said you got there late to the party with Oprah.
Totally. Like I've really only discovered her in like the last few months, and I'm just like, I knew who she was, but her Super Soul Sunday podcast is incredible. Like I love how she thinks. She thinks like so big and so kindly, and just the people she interviews are amazing. Like it's really opened my mind to a lot of stuff. And also my coach Jenna Black is awesome. She does a lot of like money mindset, and like she's a lot about like tapping in. Like I love that. I worked with her quite intensely this year, so it's been really good.
Amazing.
Who else do I like? Oh yeah, and I've got a really great circle around me in Cornwall. So my friend Trudy from Wild Samsara has really inspired me in a lot of more wellness kind of things, and just generally like being into the same stuff that I'm into has been really good, and it's kind of expanded my just my knowledge of things, and like peeled away another layer of that onion of like I'm just so curious about some things and she's kind of like helped that, so that's really cool. Who else do I like? I'm inspired by lots of different people really. There's lots of very cool people out there at the moment. So,
and how do you choose your mentors? Because I have this sort of idea that it's at the moment, with the online space, you've got to be quite boundaried with it, right? Because it's sort of bright, shiny object syndrome, where like every now and then you can sort of find yourself following someone and loving their content and then flip-flopping around and choosing lots of different people. And obviously different people have different messages. And I think for entrepreneurs that can be quite, one, distracting because you were probably meant to be working on something else. But
Exactly.
two, like, it can also make you feel overwhelmed by the amount of stuff. Like, oh, should I be doing this strategy? Should I be doing this? Or should I just be meditating? Or should I just be journaling? Or it can be very sort of distracting. So I always give the advice to sort of find like 5 or 6 people that you really connect with, but that you can go the long haul with, because I think sometimes people pop up and then you don't see them again. And if you're doing this for the long haul with yourself and your business, it's good to find people that in 5 years' time, you know, will still be that little bit ahead of you and who will be there as guides for you. So how do you choose who you're going to invest in working with, or just invest time in following?
Well, I definitely looked at like everyone at the beginning. When I first was curious, I was just like, wow, yeah, that's cool. Signed up for like all the freebies, like really like overwhelmed myself really with all of this stuff. But then it kind of occurred to me that like this was really exhausting actually. I don't know what I'm listening to, like, and actually I only really I think it must have just come to a point where I was like, oh, this is too much, like, and I only follow or really invest in like, I'd say about 5 people, maybe a little bit more, but I really feel their message, like I really get what they're saying, like that really truly speaks to my like core like beliefs and stuff, which I haven't really thought too much about until you just asked me. But like the only people I really like listen to are the people that really speak to me, if you know what I mean, like that really resonate with me. And I don't know, I just know, and I think that's just because they must really speak to me, like I just know. And I do keep it very boundaried, like I can count on my hand probably who I actually absorb information from.
And I think that's really healthy, because I think you grow together, don't you? And I think that's where the online space can be really helpful, because never before have we been able to get such sort of instant access and information from people that we really value. But it can, you know, it's like everything, the freedom to choose. If you make choices about who you're going to like follow and absorb information of, then it can really help you thrive. If you're going to allow the sort of algorithms to dictate to you, it can very soon you're in like a soup and you just think, I'm being pulled in so many different directions. And actually I did a podcast episode on values, which is one of our most downloaded. And I think this comes full circle. I think that when you understand like all the questions you've asked us today around like what lights you up, what is it you desire, when you get clear on all of that, it really helps to form your values. And in being able to publicly display those values through your work, you then call in the people that match those values. And it's sort of this, it closes the loop, you know? So those people you follow are likely being very honest about who they are and what they stand for. And there's a part of you that sort of has that same value system or similar.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. Yeah, and just being so intentional in that.
Amazing. Well, your all of your help, you've given us so much guidance today and lots of things to take away, which I wasn't expecting, so that's really awesome. And sort of for me, the overriding message of this whole episode is, one, you can do whatever it is you want to do as long as you're really tuned in to your why. So why is it that you want to do that, and you keep coming back? And I think what I've taken away as well is this idea of consistent sort of practices or rituals or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. It's so good, like speaking with you, because actually hearing it all back, I'm like, I really do that. That's actually what
that's me, man.
That's what I do. Yeah, it's those consistent things. No, it's really like so great to hear. Like,
and I think it is important, isn't it? Because we can take things for granted, right? But I mean, you've, as you say, like it's evolved. You've allowed yourself to evolve and find those practices that serve you. but you've stuck to them. And I think, you know, it's evident in your energy and in the success of your business that it's working.
I think so, yeah. I think it's really good. So, yeah.
Amazing. So I'm just going to close up today with my favorite question. So if you were walking on stage to do the keynote spot that you'd always wanted, what would be the anthem that you walked onto stage to?
I love this question. That's so great. I'm totally picturing it now. And I think it would be Walking on Sunshine.
I love
song.
that.
I don't even know who it's by, but it's really famous, isn't it? It's so good. Such a happy anthem.
I can see it. Like, I can totally see it. You like walking out to Walking on Sunshine for sure. Definitely hits. Amazing. So just before we go, I just want you to let people know where they can find you and find out about your lovely business.
So you can find me on Instagram. My tag is at Lou Ord Florals. I've got a Facebook page and I've got a website as well, which is www.lulabellfloraldesign.com. And that's got everything on. It's got all my services. So weddings, events, mentoring, and soon to be added more wellness products and services and healing. So new things coming, but yeah, slowly but surely.
So watch this space. I think you're certainly going to be one to watch. So I'll put all of those links and whatnot in the show notes so people can find you really easily and follow your amazing journey. So thank you so much for being on
Thanks,
our podcast
Kirsty.
today. And I very much look forward to seeing how everything unfolds.
Thank you so much for today.
No worries at all, my lovely. We'll look forward to seeing you soon, Lou. Take care. Bye.
Bye.